as a total aside, curing 1,000 people's blindness and how insane that was?
I didn't see it. What do you guys think about it?
Friedberg,
what do you think?
I mean, there was a bunch of commentary, even on some like pretty mainstream-ish publications saying, I think TechCrunch had an article, right? Saying that Mr. Beast's video where he paid for cataract surgery for 1,000 people that otherwise could not afford cataract surgery, giving them vision, is ableism. And that it basically implies that people that can't see are handicapped, and therefore you're kind of saying that their condition is not acceptable in a societal way.
What do you think about that?
It was even worse. They said it was exploiting them, Chamath.
Exploiting them, right?
And the narrative was and this is this hysteria of nonsense.
I think I understand it. I'm curious. What do you guys think about it, Jason?
But let me just explain to the audience what they said. Yeah. They said something even more insane. What their quote was more like, "What does it say about America and society when a billionaire is the only way that blind people can see again, and he's exploiting them for his own fame?" And it was like, number one, who care? Did the people who are now not blind care how this suffering was relieved? Of course not. And this is his money. He probably lost money on the video. And how dare he use his fame to help people? I mean, it's the worst wokeism, whatever word we want to use, virtue signaling that you could possibly imagine. It'd be like being angry at you for donating to Beast Philanthropy for playing cards.
What do you think?
No, I think the positioning that this is ableism or whatever they term it as is just ridiculous. I think that when someone does something good for someone else and it helps those people that are in need and want that help, it should be there should be accolades and acknowledgement and reward for him doing that.
Why do you guys think
End of story.
Why do you guys think that those folks feel the way that they do? That's what I'm interested in. Like, if you could put yourself into the mind of the person that was offended.
Yeah, look, I mean, this is all rooted in it because there's a rooted notion of equality regardless of one's condition. There's also this very deep-rooted notion that regardless of, whatever someone is given naturally, that they need to kind of be given the same condition as people who have a different natural condition. And I think that rooted in that notion of equality, you kind of can take it to the absolute extreme. And the absolute extreme is no one can be different from anyone else. And that's also a very dangerous place to end up. And I think that's where some of this commentary has ended up, unfortunately. So it comes from a place of equality. It comes from a place of acceptance, but take it to the complete extreme where as a result, everyone is equal. Everyone is the same. You ignore differences, and differences are actually very important to acknowledge because some differences people want to change and they want to improve their differences or they want to change their differences. And I think, it's really hard to just kind of wash everything away that makes people different.
I think it's even more cynical, Chamath, since you're asking our opinion. I think these publications would like to tickle people's outrage and to get clicks. And the greatest target is a rich person, and then combining it with somebody who is downtrodden and being abused by a rich person, and then some failing of society, i.e. universal health care. So I think it's just like a triple win in tickling everybody's outrage. Oh, we can hate this billionaire. Oh, we can hate society and how corrupt it is that we have billionaires and we don't have health care. And then we have a victim. But none of those people are victims. None of those 1,000 people feel like victims. If you watch the actual video, not only does he cure their blindness, he hands a number of them $10,000 in cash and says, hey, here's $10,000 just so you can have a great week next week when you have your first, week of vision. Go on vacation or something. Any great deed, as Friedberg's saying, like just we want more of that. Yes, sir. We should have universal health care. I agree. What do you think, Sachs?
Well, let me ask a corollary question, which is, why is this train derailment in Ohio not getting any coverage or outrage? I mean, there's more outrage at Mr. Beast for helping to cure blind people than outrage over this train derailment and this controlled demolition, supposedly a controlled burn of vinyl chloride that released a plume of phosgene gas into the air, which is which is basically poison gas. That was the poison gas used in World War I that created the most casualties in the war. It's unbelievable. It's chemical gas.
Freeberg, explain this. Okay, so just so people know, this happened. A train carrying 20 cars of highly flammable toxic chemicals derailed. We don't know, at least at the time of this taping, I don't think we know how it derailed.
There was a claim that there was an issue with an axle on one of the cars. Or
if it was sabotage. I mean, nobody knows exactly what happened yet.
No, Jake, how the brakes went out.
Okay, so now we know. Okay, I know that was like a big question, but this happened in East Palestine, Ohio, and 1,500 people have been evacuated. But we don't see like the New York Times or CNN. We're not covering this. Yeah, so Freeberg, what's the science angle here, just so we're clear?
I think number one, you can probably sensationalize a lot of things that can seem terrorizing like this. But just looking at it from the lens of what happened, several of these cars contained a liquid form of vinyl chloride, which is a precursor monomer to making the polymer called PVC, which is polyvinyl chloride. And PVC from PVC pipes. PVC is also used in tiling and walls and all sorts of stuff. The total market for vinyl chloride is about $10 billion a year. It's one of the top 20 petroleum-based products in the world. And the market size for PVC, which is what we make with vinyl chloride, is about $50 billion a year. Now, if you look at the chemical composition, it's carbon and hydrogen and oxygen and chlorine. When it's in its natural room temperature state, it's a gas, vinyl chloride is. And so they compress it and transport it as a liquid. When it's in a condition where it's at risk of being ignited, it can cause an explosion if it's in the tank. So when you have this stuff spilled over, when one of these rail cars falls over with this stuff in it, there's a difficult hazard material decision to make, which is if you allow this stuff to explode on its own, you can get a bunch of vinyl chloride liquid to go everywhere. If you ignite it and you do a controlled burn away of it, these guys practice a lot. It's not like this is a random thing that's never happened before. In fact, there was a train derailment of vinyl chloride in 2012, very similar condition to exactly what happened here. And so when you ignite the vinyl chloride, what actually happens is you end up with hydrochloric acid, HCl. That's where the chlorine mostly goes. And a little bit, about 0.1% or less, ends up as phosgene. So, the chemical analysis that these guys are making is how quickly will that phosgene dilute and what will happen to the hydrochloric acid. Now, I'm not rationalizing that this was a good thing that happened, certainly, but I'm just highlighting how the hazard materials teams think about this. I had my guy who works for me at TPB, professor, PhD from MIT. He did this write-up for me this morning just to make sure I had this all covered correctly.